Applause echoed through the ballroom while champagne glasses touched in celebration. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me. I stood near the stage, watching Olivia accept another standing ovation as the giant screen behind her displayed the company's newest milestone. $1 billion valuation. She deserved the applause. She had fought for this company with everything she had. So had I. The only difference was that nobody knew my name. I preferred it that way. While reporters surrounded her, I stayed near the back, holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. Olivia never drank during company events. She always joked that somebody had to stay clear-headed while everyone else celebrated. That somebody had always been us. She finally escaped the crowd and walked toward me. For one brief second, she smiled. The same smile that had carried us through years of late nights, empty bank accounts, broken office chairs, and countless instant noodles eaten beside glowing computer screens. You remembered. I handed her the glass. I always do. She took a sip, but her eyes drifted toward Ryan Brooks standing across the room. He raised his own glass with a confident grin. She answered with a small nod. Something inside me felt off. Not fear, not jealousy, just the quiet feeling that I no longer understood the woman standing beside me. We should talk after this. Her voice carried no warmth. I forced a smile. Everything okay? She didn't answer. Instead, she adjusted the sleeve of her expensive white blazer. The same hands that once trembled while filling out loan applications now wore a watch worth more than my first year's salary. Success had changed many things. I kept telling myself it hadn't changed her. The celebration continued for another hour. Employees laughed. Music played. Camera flashes lit the room. Ryan stayed close to Olivia almost the entire evening. Whenever I approached, another investor or executive somehow stepped between us. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. Near the end of the event, Olivia walked onto the stage again. I'd like everyone to stay for one final announcement. The room quieted immediately. I smiled without thinking. Maybe she wanted to thank the people who had been there from the beginning. Maybe she wanted to announce our engagement. She had promised we would finally have time after the company became stable. Instead, her eyes found mine. Ethan. Every head turned toward me. Would you come up here? The room broke into polite applause. My heart beat faster. I climbed the short staircase, wondering why her expression looked so distant. She stood with perfect posture. No smile. No warmth. Nothing. The microphone caught her steady voice. For many years, Ethan has been part of my personal life. Another pause. I'll always appreciate what he did for me. Confused whispers spread across the audience. She took a slow breath. But people grow. The words landed harder than I expected. Our paths no longer match. The ballroom became painfully quiet. I've decided to end our relationship. My mind refused to understand. Surely she wasn't doing this here. Not here. Not now. She continued before I could even breathe. I also think it's best if Ethan steps away from the company. Someone dropped a glass somewhere behind me. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I stared at her, hoping she would laugh and call it a terrible joke. Nothing happened. Olivia, the single word barely escaped my mouth. Her expression never changed. This is the right decision. I searched her face for any sign of hesitation. There wasn't one. What did I do? A tiny muscle near her jaw tightened. This isn't about something you did. Then help me understand. You don't belong in the future I'm building. The sentence hit harder than any scream could have. Years. I had given her years. When investors walked away, I stayed. When employees quit, I stayed. When she cried over unpaid bills, I stayed. When everyone doubted her dream, I stayed. Now I didn't belong. Ryan stepped closer, pretending to respect our space while remaining close enough to hear everything. His calm expression irritated me more than it should have. Around us, executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Nobody knew where to look. Nobody wanted to witness someone else's heartbreak. Olivia folded her hands together. I hope you'll respect my decision. Respect. That word almost made me laugh. She had ended our relationship in front of hundreds of people. Respect had left the room long before I did. 100 different responses rushed through my head. Beg her. argue, demand answers, expose every sacrifice nobody knew about. Instead, I nodded. If that's what you want. A flicker crossed her face. Just for an instant. Almost disappointment. As if she expected me to fight. To refuse. To chase her. I turned away before I could change my mind. The applause never returned. Only footsteps followed me as I walked through rows of silent coworkers. Grace caught up near the hallway. Ethan. She reached for my arm. I gently shook my head. Not tonight. Her eyes filled with concern. You don't have to go through this alone. I know. It took everything inside me to keep walking. The HR office was almost empty. I removed my company ID badge and placed it on the desk. The plastic card felt strangely heavy. 5 years of my life reduced to one small rectangle. The manager looked embarrassed. You don't have to do this tonight. I do. He accepted the badge without another word. Outside, cold wind greeted me. My cardboard box held a few notebooks, family photos, and an old coffee mug Olivia had painted years ago. Dream Team. It read in fading blue letters. I almost threw it away. Instead, I placed it back inside. The apartment felt unfamiliar when I opened the door. Dinner sat exactly where I had left it that morning. Pasta, her favorite. The candles had melted into strange shapes. The food was cold. The room was colder. Her jacket no longer hung beside mine. A single envelope rested on the kitchen counter. Inside was the spare apartment key. She must have sent someone while I was still at the celebration. I picked it up. An hour later, I stood outside her office. The lights were still on. She looked exhausted. For a second, our eyes met through the glass wall. Neither of us smiled. I walked inside without speaking. The small silver key rested gently on her desk. You forgot this. She looked down at it. Ethan, the sound of my name almost stopped me. Almost. I hope you get everything you're looking for. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I turned and left. This time she didn't stop me. The next morning my phone stayed silent. Then another day passed. Then another. No apology. No explanation. No late-night call asking me to come home. Part of me wanted to send one message. Just one. Why? I opened our chat window. My fingers rested above the keyboard. The words never came. I closed the screen. Days later, I finally forced myself to delete thousands of old photos. Vacation pictures, office selfies, late-night coding sessions, birthday surprises, tiny memories that once felt permanent. Then something unexpected appeared. A folder I had never noticed before. It had synced automatically from Olivia's laptop months ago when we shared cloud storage. Curious, I opened it. My breathing slowed. Emails. Private board discussions. Ryan's name appeared again. And again. And again. One message caught my eye. He'll come back. End it publicly. If he really loves you, he'll fight for you. That's how you'll know he deserves a place beside a CEO. My thumb froze above the screen. Another email followed. Then another. Ryan hadn't simply watched my relationship fall apart. He had been whispering into Olivia's ear for months. The breakup suddenly looked less like a choice, and more like someone's carefully designed test. I stared at the screen until dawn, one question refusing to leave my mind. If none of this happened naturally, what else had I never seen? The email stayed open on my laptop until sunrise. Ryan's words refused to leave my mind. End it publicly. If he really loves you, he'll fight for you. I read that sentence over and over. Part of me wanted to believe Olivia had been manipulated. The other part couldn't ignore one painful truth. Nobody had forced her to stand on that stage. Nobody had made her humiliate me in front of hundreds of people. The final choice had still been hers. I closed the laptop. My reflection stared back from the dark screen. Tired eyes, unshaven face. A man who had spent years building someone else's dream while quietly forgetting his own. That had to change. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Today. My phone buzzed while I packed another box. Grace. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered, "You've been hiding." Her voice carried concern instead of pity. "I'm just busy. You've never been good at lying." A weak smile crossed my face. "You always notice." "I do." A short pause settled between us. "You eaten today?" Coffee counts. It doesn't. Another pause. Come meet me. I don't really feel like talking. You don't have to. 20 minutes later, I found myself sitting across from her inside a small cafe a few blocks from my old office. She pushed a sandwich toward me. No speeches. No advice. Just eat. I hadn't realized how hungry I was. Half the sandwich disappeared before either of us spoke again. Grace watched quietly. Then she leaned back. You know what bothered me most? I raised an eyebrow. Nobody stopped her. The room was full. They all just watched. I remembered every face. Executives pretending to check their phones. Managers staring at the floor. Friends avoiding eye contact. Nobody wanted to become part of someone else's disaster. Grace folded her hands around her coffee. You spent 5 years solving everyone's problems. A small laugh escaped her. When was the last time someone solved one for you? I searched for an answer. Nothing came. She noticed. Exactly. Outside. People hurried through another normal morning. Inside, my entire life had stopped. Grace reached into her bag. I wasn't sure if you'd accept it. She placed a folder on the table. Inside were several freelance contracts. Software consulting. Remote development. Short-term projects. They're looking for someone with startup experience. I haven't updated my resume. You won't need one. She smiled. Your work speaks louder. I stared at the papers. For the first time in days, I saw something that wasn't connected to Olivia. Opportunity. 3 weeks passed faster than I expected. My apartment became quieter. Smaller. Simpler. The expensive furniture stayed behind. The oversized television. The designer decorations Olivia loved. None of them felt important anymore. Cardboard boxes filled the living room. Every object carried a memory. Some were easy to pack. Others felt impossible. Near the bottom drawer of our bedroom dresser, my fingers stopped. A photograph. Olivia and me, standing beside a lake. Both of us soaked after falling into the water because she insisted we could jump across a broken bridge. She had laughed so hard that day she couldn't breathe. I remembered drying her hair with my jacket while she kept apologizing between laughs. We're going to tell our kids this story someday. She had believed it. So had I. My thumb brushed across the corner of the photo. Then I placed it inside a small envelope instead of hanging on to it. Some memories deserved respect. They didn't deserve control. The drawer closed. It never opened again. The new apartment fit inside one afternoon. 1 bedroom, 1 desk, 1 small balcony. No expensive view. No luxury. No echoes of a relationship that no longer existed. I carried the final suitcase inside and closed the door. The quiet felt different. Not lonely, just honest. Freelance work quickly filled my days. 1 client became 2, then 4. Soon my calendar looked fuller than it had in months. Nobody cared who I had dated. Nobody introduced me as the CEO's boyfriend. Clients only cared whether I could solve problems. That felt strangely refreshing. Each completed project rebuilt something much more valuable than my bank account. Confidence. One afternoon, Grace stopped by my apartment carrying takeout. She walked onto the balcony and smiled. This place actually suits you. It doesn't have enough room for bad memories. She laughed. That's the nicest thing you've said all month. We ate while watching traffic below. Halfway through dinner, she glanced toward my phone resting on the table. Still waiting. For what? For her. I didn't answer immediately. The silence gave me my answer before words ever could. Grace nodded. Delete it. What? Her contact. My eyes stayed on the screen. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't delete people because you hate them. She gently slid the phone closer. You delete them because every notification keeps reopening a wound. The contact list appeared. Olivia. A simple name. 1 tap away. My thumb hovered over the screen. Memories rushed in. Late-night calls. Birthday messages. Voice notes reminding me to eat. Plans that would never happen. Then another memory pushed everything else aside. Her voice inside the ballroom. You don't belong in the future I'm building. I pressed delete. The screen asked one final question. Are you sure? A slow breath escaped me. Yes. The name disappeared. Grace didn't celebrate. She simply reached across the table and squeezed my shoulder. Sometimes support needed no words. Across town, my old company continued moving without me. Former coworkers occasionally called, not to gossip, just to check in. One conversation stood out. They've changed. What do you mean? The office. The atmosphere. He lowered his voice. Ryan approves almost everything now. What about Olivia? She agrees with him most of the time. That surprised me. Olivia had never blindly followed anyone. Not investors. Not advisors. Not even me. What happened? I honestly don't know. He hesitated. People have started leaving. Good people. Another call arrived 2 days later. Different employee. Same concern. Ryan was sitting in meetings that once belonged only to Olivia. Departments were being reorganized. Old managers were quietly replaced. The company no longer felt like the dream we had built together. I listened. Then I ended the call. There was nothing I could do. Not anymore. Late one evening, curiosity almost defeated me. Almost. I parked across the street from the office building after meeting a nearby client. Lights still glowed on the executive floor. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to walk inside, ask one simple question: why? Instead, I watched employees leave one by one. Near midnight, Olivia finally appeared. She stepped out alone. No assistants. No reporters. No confident smile. She paused beside her car and scanned the empty sidewalk. Almost like she expected someone to be waiting. Someone who wasn't there. She unlocked the door. Stopped again. Looked back toward the building. Then quietly drove away. I stayed where I was until her taillights disappeared. The engine started. I drove in the opposite direction. Weeks turned into a month. The pain didn't disappear overnight. It simply stopped controlling every decision. Work became exciting again. Sleep finally returned. Even music sounded different. One evening, I found myself laughing during a video call with a client. Real laughter. The kind that arrived without guilt. The sound surprised me. Maybe healing wasn't one big moment. Maybe it happened in tiny pieces. One ordinary day at a time. A knock echoed through my apartment the following Saturday. I wasn't expecting anyone. The door opened. A tall man stood outside wearing a dark coat. Daniel, Olivia's older brother. He looked older than I remembered. More tired. His usual confidence had faded. I know I don't have the right to ask for your time. I stepped aside. Come in. He noticed the unpacked books, the modest furniture, the quiet apartment. You really moved on. I'm trying. Daniel nodded slowly. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. His attention landed on the empty shelf where a framed picture might once have stood. You loved her. I did. The past tense hung heavily between us. He rubbed both hands together before speaking again. I argued with her. When? Before the breakup. My heartbeat slowed. I told her she was making a terrible mistake. What mistake? Daniel closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he looked straight at me. The next sentence changed everything I thought I knew. She never wanted you gone forever. She never wanted you gone forever. Daniel's words stayed in the room long after he finished speaking. I stared at him, waiting for the rest. He didn't rush. His eyes wandered across my small apartment before settling on the coffee mug sitting beside my laptop. The faded words "Dream Team" were almost gone. I told her this would happen, he murmured. She thought you would fight. A bitter laugh escaped me. Fight what? The breakup. The humiliation. The public rejection. I leaned back in my chair. So that was all a test? Daniel lowered his head. That's what she admitted. The silence between us carried years of memories. Finally, he reached inside his coat and placed a folded piece of paper on my table. I shouldn't even have this. What is it? A copy of her journal. My hand stopped halfway. You read her journal? No. He shook his head. It was lying open after she came home from work one night. She didn't even notice. I unfolded the page. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. Ryan says Real love fights through pride. If Ethan truly loves me, he'll come back. Maybe I've made him too comfortable. Maybe he needs to prove he'll never leave. Every sentence felt heavier than the last. I folded the paper again. So she listened. Daniel nodded. She trusted the wrong person and ignored the right one. His eyes closed for a moment. I warned her. After Daniel left, I sat alone for almost an hour. Anger would have been easier. Instead, disappointment settled inside me. Olivia hadn't stopped loving me. She had stopped respecting me. Somewhere along the way, love had become a game she believed she could control. The woman I knew would never have done that. Or maybe she had changed so slowly that I never noticed. The next morning, I opened the folder of emails again. This time, I wasn't reading them as a broken boyfriend. I was reading them like a software engineer. Patterns mattered. Dates mattered. Tiny details mattered. Ryan's emails weren't random. Every important decision over the last 6 months seemed connected to him. Every major investor meeting. Every executive promotion. Every disagreement. He always appeared somewhere in the background. One email caught my attention. Private strategy meeting, board members only. Attached beneath it was a financial report. Something felt strange. Numbers had been changed. Small changes. Almost invisible. Enough to influence decisions without raising suspicion. I opened another report. Then another. The same pattern appeared again. Someone had been carefully moving money between departments. Not stealing it. Controlling it. Grace arrived later that afternoon carrying coffee. She noticed the papers covering my desk. You've been busy. I'm starting to understand what happened. She picked up one report. This doesn't look like relationship drama. It isn't. I pointed towards several highlighted sections. Ryan kept convincing Olivia that everyone else was emotional. And only he was logical. Grace frowned. That's how people gain control. I nodded. He slowly became the only voice she trusted. She remained quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? The question stayed in the air. I honestly don't know. You could expose him. I could. You could also walk away. I could. Grace folded the report and placed it back exactly where she found it. Just don't confuse helping someone with sacrificing yourself again. Her words stayed with me after she left. A week passed. Work kept me busy. Life slowly found a rhythm. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. Hello. No answer. Only quiet breathing. Who's this? Another long pause. Then a familiar voice. Ethan. Olivia. The sound of my name felt different coming from her. Smaller. Less certain. You changed your number. No. You deleted mine. She already knew. Neither of us spoke. Traffic moved outside my office window. Someone laughed in the hallway. Normal life continued while hours remained frozen. I've been trying to reach you. I know. You know? My email filters still catch blocked contacts. Another pause. I wanted to explain. I closed my eyes. Explain what? Everything. Can you explain why you ended our relationship in front of the whole company? Her breathing became uneven. I thought. The sentence never finished. I have a meeting. Ethan, please. The desperation surprised me. I just need 5 minutes. You already had 5 years. I ended the call. The phone stayed in my hand long after the screen went dark. Days later, I found myself driving past our favorite little bookstore. Old Habits. I almost smiled when I noticed the owner rearranging books outside. Then I noticed someone else. Olivia. She stood near the entrance holding a novel I had once recommended. She wasn't shopping. She was staring through the window toward the reading corner where we used to spend Sunday afternoons. I stayed inside my car. She never saw me. After several minutes, she quietly placed the book back on the shelf and walked away. Another evening brought another unexpected sight. The small Italian restaurant where we celebrated every company milestone. The owner recognized me immediately. Ethan. He smiled before noticing I was alone. Haven't seen you two in months. We're not together anymore. His smile faded. I'm sorry. He hesitated. She came here last week. I looked up. Alone. He nodded. Ordered your favorite meal. But barely touched it. A strange feeling settled over me. Not victory. Not satisfaction. Just sadness. That night, I couldn't sleep. Curiosity finally won. I opened our old message thread through the archived backup I had saved years earlier. Thousands of messages. Tiny pieces of a life that no longer existed. One message made me stop. Don't skip lunch. Another. You always believe in me before I believe in myself. Another. Promise you'll never stop being honest with me. I smiled despite everything. Then another memory surfaced. She had broken every promise before I ever broke one. The laptop closed. Some stories deserve to stay in the past. The following Monday, another former coworker requested a private meeting. We met inside a quiet park. He looked nervous. I shouldn't even be here. You don't have to tell me anything. He handed me a flash drive. Finance backed everything up. Why? Because people stopped trusting Ryan. I slipped the drive into my pocket. What's on it? Emails. Meeting recordings. Board recommendations. He glanced around before lowering his voice. You weren't the only person Ryan manipulated. Back home, I plugged the drive into my computer. Hours disappeared. Every file answered one question while creating two more. Ryan had quietly isolated Olivia. Whenever another executive disagreed with him, he described them as emotional. Whenever she questioned him, he reminded her that powerful leaders couldn't afford weakness. Little by little, he became the only person she relied on. Then I found an audio recording. Ryan's calm voice filled my speakers. If Ethan leaves quietly, you'll know he never loved you enough. Olivia sounded uncertain. What if he doesn't come back? A soft chuckle answered. He will. The recording ended. He sounded so confident. He had been wrong. 2 mornings later, my office receptionist knocked gently. Someone's downstairs. Who? Olivia. Every muscle in my body tensed. I'm not available. She waited 3 hours yesterday. The words caught me off guard. Yesterday? You had already left through the back entrance. I walked toward the window. From the 4th floor, I could see the sidewalk. She stood beside the entrance wearing the same gray coat she always wore on rainy days. No assistance, no security, no expensive car waiting nearby. Just one woman staring at the building every few minutes. She checked her phone. Nothing. She slipped it back into her pocket. Then she slowly walked away. I remained behind the glass. Some meetings happened too late. That evening, Daniel called again. His voice sounded strained. It's getting worse. What is? The company. I stood beside my balcony as rain tapped against the railing. Ryan called an emergency board meeting. What happened? He convinced several investors that Olivia has lost control. My grip tightened around the phone. Why now? Because everything he planned is finally in place. Daniel took a slow breath. The board votes tomorrow morning. A chill ran through me. For what? His answer came quietly. They're voting to remove Olivia as CEO. The board meeting started at 9. By 9:15, the company Olivia had spent years building was slipping through her fingers. I wasn't inside the boardroom. I couldn't be. I no longer worked there. Instead, I sat across the street in a quiet cafe with my laptop open and the flash drive beside my coffee. Daniel had called before sunrise. Margaret wants to see the evidence. Can she stop this? I don't know. But she deserves the truth. I had copied every email, every financial report, and every recording onto a secure drive the night before. Not because I wanted Olivia back. Because Ryan deserved to be exposed. Some lies grow too large to ignore. At exactly 10 o'clock, my phone vibrated. Grace. Have you heard? Not yet. They're arguing. How do you know? My cousin works in legal. She lowered her voice. Ryan denied everything. And Margaret isn't letting him control the room. A small breath escaped me. That sounded like the Margaret Hayes I remembered. She had always believed facts mattered more than confidence. Another 20 minutes passed. Each minute felt longer than the last. Finally, Daniel called. His voice sounded exhausted. It's over. My hand tightened around the phone. What happened? Margaret played the recordings. The emails? All of them. He paused. Ryan couldn't explain why every recommendation benefited him. I closed my eyes. What about Olivia? She just sat there. The image formed in my mind without effort. A woman surrounded by evidence she wished had never existed. She finally realized he wasn't protecting her. Daniel's next words came quietly. He was using her. He told me what happened inside the meeting. Margaret had walked to the center of the room, carrying a stack of printed documents. No dramatic speech. No anger. Just facts. She placed one report in front of every board member. This company deserves honesty. Ryan leaned back in his chair with an easy smile. Are we really wasting time on paperwork? Margaret ignored the interruption. These financial reports were altered. Another page landed on the table. These emails encouraged emotional decisions instead of professional ones. Then came the audio recording. Ryan's own voice filled the room. If Ethan leaves quietly, you'll know he never loved you enough. Daniel told me nobody moved after that. Even Ryan stopped smiling. What did Olivia do? I already knew the answer before Daniel spoke. Nothing. Nothing. She couldn't. He sighed. She kept reading the emails. The same ones you found. My thoughts drifted back to the night I discovered that hidden folder. She had trusted one man so completely that she stopped listening to everyone else, including herself, including me. The board reached a decision before lunch. Ryan was immediately removed from every leadership position while an outside investigation began. His company email was disabled. Security escorted him from the building. For the first time in months, he had no control over the story. Justice didn't arrive with shouting. It arrived carrying documents. Olivia wasn't fired, but she stepped down as CEO while the investigation continued. Margaret insisted it wasn't punishment. It was responsibility. A leader who ignored repeated warnings had to accept the consequences. No exceptions. That afternoon, I stood inside my apartment surrounded by one final cardboard box. I had been avoiding it for weeks. The last pieces of our life together. Photo albums, concert tickets, birthday cards, a tiny stuffed bear she won at a carnival after spending almost $20 trying to grab it. She had laughed every time she looked at it. Near the bottom rested a small black velvet box. My fingers froze. I already knew what was inside. The engagement ring. I had bought it almost a year earlier. The proposal was supposed to happen after the company reached its biggest goal. Instead, the ring never left the box. I held it for several seconds before placing it back inside. Some dreams belonged to another version of life. Another item waited beneath it. Apartment paperwork, insurance documents, a spare key she never collected. I packed everything carefully, closed the lid, picked up the box. There was one final thing I needed to do. The company parking lot looked strangely empty. Employees walked more slowly than usual. Nobody celebrated. Nobody argued. People simply watched one chapter ending while another quietly began. Daniel met me near the entrance. You actually came. I'm not here to save anyone. I know. He glanced toward the box in my hands. She's upstairs. I'll wait. Nearly an hour passed before the elevator doors opened. Olivia stepped into the lobby. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically. The confidence she always carried had disappeared. Her blazer was wrinkled. Dark circles rested beneath tired eyes. When she noticed me, she stopped walking. Neither of us spoke immediately. The distance between us felt much longer than a few steps. Finally, I held out the box. These belong to you. She accepted it carefully. Her hands trembled. The tape peeled back slowly. She lifted the first photograph. Us sitting on the office floor during the company's first week. No furniture. No investors. Just 2 laptops and impossible dreams. Another picture followed. Christmas. A weekend trip. Birthday candles. Tiny moments we once believed would last forever. She reached the velvet ring box. Her breathing caught. I bought it last year. She closed her eyes. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to. The ring remained in her hands. She never opened it. Maybe she already understood. I'm sorry. The words came quietly. No dramatic tears. No desperate excuses. I thought love meant proving people would never leave. A sad smile crossed my face. Love isn't a contest. I know. She looked down at the photographs again. I know that now. The wind carried fallen leaves across the parking lot. Neither of us hurried. I hurt you. Yes. I embarrassed you. Yes. I listened to the wrong person. You did. She nodded after every answer. No arguments. No attempts to soften the truth. I kept waiting for you to come back. I almost did. Her eyes lifted quickly. But every time I remembered that stage, the sentence faded away. It didn't need an ending. She understood. I visited our bookstore. I know. You saw me? I was across the street. A weak laugh escaped her. I went to the restaurant too. I know that as well. She looked surprised. I kept hoping we'd accidentally meet. We almost did. But you left. I wasn't ready. She accepted that answer with another slow nod. I've spent weeks reading our old messages. Her thumb brushed across one faded photograph. I never noticed how much you gave up. I never kept score. Maybe you should have. The honesty in that sentence caught me off guard. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She was admitting a painful truth. I don't expect forgiveness today. You already have it. She blinked. You do. I don't want to spend my life carrying anger. A tear rolled down her cheek. But forgiveness isn't the same as going back. The hope inside her eyes dimmed. I understand. I reached into my jacket pocket. One final item rested there. The spare apartment key. I placed it gently on top of the box. It finally belongs with everything else. She stared at the small silver key. A simple piece of metal. Yet it carried the weight of an entire life. I wish I could change that night. I believe you. I'd choose differently. I believe that too. She held the box closer against her chest. What happens now? I looked toward the parking lot where my car waited. I keep moving. And me? That's your choice. She stood quietly for several seconds. The wind lifted a strand of her hair across her face. She didn't brush it away. Instead, she searched my expression one last time. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Is there any version of our future left? I held her gaze. Every beautiful memory, every broken promise, every sacrifice, every lesson, they all passed through my mind at once. No answer came. I turned toward my car. The box remained in her arms. The engagement ring stayed unopened. Behind me, she never called my name, and I kept walking. 6 months can change a life. Not because time heals everything, because every choice slowly becomes a new habit. The man who once measured his worth through one person's smile now woke up excited to build his own future. My consulting company had grown beyond anything I expected. One client became 10. 10 became 30. I finally hired a small team. Our office wasn't impressive. No glass walls. No luxury furniture. Just people who respected one another. That mattered more than any expensive building. Every Friday we ended work the same way. No late-night meetings. No impossible deadlines. Everyone went home on time. I had learned what success should never cost. Grace walked into my office carrying 2 cups of coffee. She smiled after noticing another signed contract on my desk. Looks like someone needs a bigger office. I'm still paying for this one. She laughed. That's the responsible answer. I accepted the coffee. Thank you. She leaned against the doorway. You've changed. I hope so. You don't check your phone every 5 minutes anymore. A quiet smile crossed my face. I finally realized peace isn't boring. It's expensive. She nodded toward the window. You earned it. Those words meant more than she probably realized. Ryan's story ended very differently. The investigation uncovered months of financial manipulation and abuse of authority. Several investors filed legal complaints. His professional reputation collapsed almost overnight. No speeches, no dramatic revenge, just consequences. The same confidence that once controlled every meeting disappeared behind courtroom doors. I never celebrated his downfall. Watching someone destroy himself isn't victory. Learning from it is. Daniel called every few weeks, not to discuss the past, just to stay in touch. One afternoon, he invited me to lunch. The company survived. I'm glad. It almost didn't. He smiled. Margaret deserves most of the credit. I believe that. He stirred his coffee before continuing. Olivia stayed. As CEO? He shook his head. No. She asked to return as a regular executive. That surprised me. She accepted less authority without arguing. He smiled again. She even moved out of the corner office. The image stayed with me. The woman who once believed control proved strength had chosen humility instead. Some lessons arrived painfully. Autumn slowly became winter. Then spring returned. Life kept moving. One morning an email arrived from a charity organization supporting young entrepreneurs. They wanted me to speak at their annual fundraising event. Normally, I avoided public appearances. Grace read the invitation before I could answer. Go. I don't really enjoy speeches. It isn't about speeches. She folded the paper. Somebody helped you once. Now you help someone else. She was right. I accepted. The ballroom felt strangely familiar. Elegant decorations. Soft music. People wearing expensive suits. For one brief moment, I remembered another celebration. Another stage. Another ending. This night felt different. Nobody knew me as someone's boyfriend. They introduced me as the founder of my own company. That small difference meant everything. After my presentation ended, several young business owners gathered around with questions. I answered everyone I could. When the crowd finally thinned, I turned toward the refreshment table. Then I saw her. Olivia. She stood across the room speaking with a group of scholarship students. No photographers surrounded her. No assistants followed behind. She listened more than she talked. One student laughed. She laughed too. It felt genuine. Eventually our eyes met. Neither of us looked away. She excused herself from the conversation and slowly walked toward me. No rush. No panic. Just calm steps. Congratulations. A gentle smile rested on her face. I've heard your company is doing well. We've been fortunate. You worked for it. There was no jealousy in her voice. Only quiet respect. I noticed something different. The expensive watch was gone. The designer jewelry had disappeared. Simple clothes. Simple smile. She seemed lighter. I almost didn't come tonight. Her fingers rested around a glass of water. I almost didn't either. A soft laugh escaped both of us. The awkwardness faded. I've wanted to thank you. I tilted my head. For what? For walking away. The answer caught me off guard. If you had stayed, she looked toward the stage before continuing. I would have learned nothing. The honesty in her words left no room for excuses. I blamed everyone except myself. She smiled sadly. Then one day, I ran out of people to blame. Daniel told me you've changed things at the company. We all have. She nodded toward another table where Margaret was speaking with investors. She taught me something. What was that? A leader earns trust every day. Not once. I remembered the confident CEO who believed love needed to be tested. The woman standing beside me barely resembled her. Not because she looked different, because pride no longer spoke before kindness. I found the ring. She spoke quietly. I know. I opened the box that night. Her eyes lowered. I sat in my apartment until sunrise. No dramatic tears. No attempt to make me feel guilty. Just truth. I finally understood what I'd thrown away. The words stayed between us. Neither of us tried to erase them. I've read every message we ever sent. A small smile appeared. You really reminded me to eat a lot. You forgot a lot. I did. She looked back at me. You gave me your best years. I chose to. You deserved better. I thought about answering, then realized she wasn't asking for reassurance. She had already accepted the truth. Music drifted softly across the ballroom. People continued laughing nearby. Life had a funny way of moving forward even when hearts once believed everything had ended. Olivia took a slow breath. I don't expect another chance. I'm glad. A tiny smile reached her eyes. I wouldn't deserve one. Her answer carried peace instead of defeat. That mattered. I'm happy you're doing well. I am. You really mean that? I do. She nodded. I can hear it. Months earlier, I would have hidden my feelings. Now I didn't need to. Happiness doesn't have to prove itself. It simply exists. Grace walked past us carrying 2 desserts. She noticed Olivia first, then me. I'll give you 2 a minute. She pointed toward the cheesecake. But I'm stealing this one. I laughed. So generous. She disappeared into the crowd. Olivia smiled. You found good people. I stopped chasing the wrong ones. She accepted that answer without pain, only understanding. The event slowly came to an end. Guests began leaving. The ballroom grew quieter. We walked together toward the exit. Outside, cool evening air greeted us. Cars waited beneath soft streetlights. She stopped beside the entrance. So, the word faded into the night. I think this is goodbye. I think it is. She smiled gently. I'll always be grateful I met you. I'm grateful too, even after everything that remained true. Loving her had taught me many lessons. Losing her had taught me the rest. She offered her hand. No dramatic embrace. No desperate attempt to hold on. Just one simple gesture. I shook it. Take care of yourself. You too. She stepped backward, then turned toward her car. Halfway there she paused. Not because she wanted me to stop her, because some endings deserve one last look. She smiled. A quiet smile, filled with acceptance. Then she drove away. I watched until the taillights disappeared into the night. This time, I didn't wish they would come back. The next morning, sunlight filled my apartment. Coffee brewed in the kitchen. Birds landed on the balcony railing. An ordinary morning, exactly the kind I once dreamed about. My phone buzzed while I answered emails. An old notification appeared from a restored backup. One unread message. Olivia. Months old. I had never opened it. Maybe I wasn't ready then. Now I didn't need to. My thumb rested on the screen. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. Just gratitude for everything life had taught me. I deleted the message. The notification disappeared forever. I slipped the phone into my pocket, locked my apartment door, and stepped into the morning light. As I walked toward the future I had built with my own hands, one truth settled quietly inside me. The greatest victory was never making Olivia regret losing me. It was becoming a man who no longer needed anyone else's approval to know his own worth.